Hello and welcome back to the channel, and thank you for joining me in another of my videos. Now, a number of people have sent me the same act, the acts and statutes, those things written up by the government. And if you're in that jurisdiction, of course, it all applies to you. This one was in 1939. Yes, and it was set up to make sure that nobody, no medical practitioner or any individual come to that, could advertise and say, I've got a cure for cancer and I want to be able to help people. Because if anybody said that they had a cure for this big C, the government would come down on them like a ton of bricks. And this has been on the statute books for some time, and a lot of people don't know it. And yet you go out into the street and there's those chuggers. Apparently that's what they're called, the ones with the money. So they're going ka-chung, 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 ka-chung. Please give us your money because we're searching for a cure. Well, you're not allowed to search for a cure, are you? Mr. Cancer Research and all of that. You're not supposed to be doing that because if you advertise the fact that you do, that's illegal and you could go to prison. It says so in the Act. Don't believe me? Let's have a little gander. I've got it up here on the screen over here. And I thought we'd have a quick little look at it. The Cancer Act, 1939. And here we go. You can see this. It's been put into legislation. Cancer Act, 1939. Now, although it starts off quite happily, and it says it's an act to make further provision for the treatment of cancer, to authorise the Minister of the Health to lend money to the National Radium Trust to prevent certain advertisements relating to cancer, and for purposes connected with matters aforesaid, 1939. But when you get down to this bit, it's, so there you are. You may have suddenly come across the cure, let's say. Well, you can't tell anyone. Oh, no, keep that under the hat. It says here in the provision number 1, it says the prohibition of certain advertisements. No person shall take any part in the publication of any advertisements containing an offer to treat any person for cancer, so you can't treat them, or prescribe any remedy, therefore, or to give away any advice in connection with the treatment thereof. Now, a lot of people may not realise that actually this, because it's been made to be the biggest thing, under the sun. I'm sure it isn't really at all, but everybody's frightened by this silly thing. If any person contravenes any of the provisions in the aforementioned subsection, he will be liable on summary conviction, and in the case of a first conviction, a fine. In the case of a second conviction, a subsequent one, another fine. And then a third conviction, imprisonment or for a term not exceeding 3 months, or both a fine and imprisonment. And it's all there in black and white. And I'll leave the link in the description so you can go and check it out. Just in case you suddenly thought, oh, yeah, I think I'll just go out in the streets and peddle I've got the cure for. Turbo cancer, of course, is something that seems to be a big thing at the moment, and only the correct people are allowed to give you that cure, which may be an expensive treatment for both the National Health Service or indeed yourself. And if you are somebody who's got that treatment, you must not advertise it or attempt to advertise that you might have the cure. So people blindly go around perhaps having to sort of tap people on the shoulder and just go, oh, excuse me, have you got the cure for cancer? No. Oh, thanks very much. I just asked that bloke over there, have you got it? Until eventually they find someone, because you can't advertise, but presumably you can actually sort of go, hey, take these tablets, you'll be all right, mate. Know what I mean? Now I had this email come in from somebody who was saying exactly this. The 1939 Cancer Act passed by Parliament. This was also applied to by the United States. And he goes on, did you know that in 1939 the Cancer Act, it's a criminal offence for medical practitioners even to advise patients on political cancer cures. This raises the question, he says, wouldn't it be considered fraudulent or for cancer charities to accept donations under the assumption that they are searching for a cure, when it's actually a criminal act for them to publicise the cures? So if you're going down the street and, this is, you're being asked, this is maybe a question to ask these charities, because they've got such huge amounts of money sitting in the big ones. They've got such huge amounts of money, but still they want more. It's interesting. I did a video the other day, as you may remember, called Is Your Doctor Your Friend? or words to that effect. Can you trust your doctors? And this was a response I had. Dear Richard, from a lady called Jackie, I thought you'd like to see this letter I sent to my GP. Note the date, and also, like you, I decided not to take it. This is obviously about the medical intervention, you see. This was put together by someone very clever, forget who now. I duly sent it to my GP's practice and got a standard reply to the effect that they were following the NHS guidelines, safe and effective, you just take it, you'll be all right. Obviously completely clueless and incentivised financially for every jab given. Just look at all the references at the end of the letter that I sent. What's the betting that not one GP even read them? So yes, in answer to your question, I think GPs should be held accountable for not doing their due diligence in looking into the jab before administering it. And that was from Jackie. And she sent me this letter, and I was going to read it out because it was quite interesting, but it is actually quite long, so I don't want to go too deep into this. But she sent it to all the GPs at her, I guess, her surgery, medical centre. I'll read a little bit. But note the date, she said, so that's September the 5th, the 5th of 2022. So a few years ago now. By the way, aren't we coming up now to 5 years of being locked down? It's very close, isn't it? On the round about the 22nd, 23rd of March in 2020, we were all locked down. Are we going to celebrate and have a bit of a party? Maybe lock your doors and stay inside for the day just to sort of remember what that feels like? Maybe we should, or maybe we shouldn't. It's not really something to celebrate, is it? But perhaps we should have a solemn 24-hour silence, something like that. Anyway, she says in this letter to her medical thing, Dear Sir, Madam, I'm writing to you ahead of the impending COVID booster programme. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? 2022, the booster. So we all had the well, not all of us, of course. Some of us went, I'm not sure about this, and avoided it like the plague. And in fact, I'd rather have had the plague, because I think that was probably non-existent either, than the thing that was actually poisoning people. But anyway, so I'll get on with it. She says, I'm writing to you ahead of this, which will offer a new and reformulated COVID vaccine to all those over 50 and clinical vulnerable under 50s, a total of around 26 million people. How exciting. Oh, the thrills. The vaccine in question has not been tested on human beings. Please see references at the foot of the letter, and we'll just have a quick gander at see some of the links that she saw. So she says, I'm contacting you today because I'm deeply concerned about this situation, and that the often highly vulnerable people of the injection targeted at, many of them are elderly and suffering cognitive decline. Many others with learning difficulties or struggles with literacy are not being adequately safeguarded when it comes to ensuring their consent to medical treatments is fully informed. Now, that to me is still going on, not so much necessarily about boost, but elderly people are being given stuff because they're old and thick and dense, and perhaps they have memory loss and all that, and the doctors know, we know what we're doing, we'll just give you the stuff. And proper consent has not been given. And some people, of course, haven't managed to get the attorney, what do they call it, the power of attorney for the health, so that they can look after their elderly mums and dads or relations, whatever it is, or even their children. Well, I suppose it's their children. They ought to have the power of attorney by default if they're under 18, but once they get over a certain age. Anyway, she goes on in this, and it's quite interesting in and of itself, and I can't actually make this publicly available because I haven't got a link to it. But that's the key thing. When people do not have the let me come back to the main screen. When people do not have the full capacity in their mind, and doctors are taking over, how do we know that we can trust these people, especially in recent times, as we've just seen in that the thing I did the other day about doctors are going to be made liable. Now, my sister is a nurse, and my sister says that she goes round she deals with a lot of elderly people in hospital and a lot of other people in hospital, and part of her duty is to dish out pills that the doctors have prescribed. And she said to me many a time that she'll sit there and she'll come in, and because it's very difficult, because the doctor's writing is all in very strange, hardly legible. And the nurses are sitting there going, what the hell does this say? It's 20 grams of this, that, and the other, and 20 grams of that, and 5 grams of this. And they get, and it is, mistakes can easily be made, which is very difficult when they've got hundreds of patients to go round. But the point that she really wanted to make was she'll go round to these patients, and they're sitting in their bed, these elderly patients, or many patients who've been on long-term medication, and she'll put these pills down in a dish, and there may be something like 10 different pills that these people have taken on a daily basis. As just, before they came into hospital and after they come into hospital, they're still taking these pills. And she says to them, "Can you tell me what this pill's for?" And the people go, "I don't know." And they said, as she said, this is a real worry, that a lot of people in hospital are sitting there taking pills. They have absolutely no idea what they do. They have no idea what's in them, and they have no idea whether they still need to take them. And this is a strange situation for people to be in. And now you may be one of those people sitting down, you've got your phone and you've put it on the side like this, and you're sitting there listening to this bald bloke with glasses. Yeah, he's ever so a nice man. What a lovely man. He talks a lot of common sense. Sometimes he's a bit bonkers. Anyway, whilst I'm watching him, I'm just going to have my pills. But unless you know what they are and what's in them, why would you put anything into your body that you're not sure? I mean, people go down to the supermarket, let's face it, and they put in all that nutrient-free food and vitamin-deficient stuff that's plied with E numbers and other sort of weird things, petrochemicals mostly, and they do that. So I suppose why it'd be different when the doctor, that authority figure, comes in and says, "Well, I think you should be taking these pills." And what do they do, doctor? Oh, it's a bit too complicated to explain now. Off you go and take them. Are you taking pills that you know not what you need to be taking? Or are you perhaps looking at different remedies? But for God's sake, don't advertise that you can cure the big C, because if you do advertise that, you're in the clink, mate. You're in the clink. So it's interesting, isn't it? The medical profession and the government do not necessarily seem to be on our sides. But there are, fortunately, many other remedies that do sort these problems out for us, if only we opened our eyes and looked to them. Anyway, I hope that's quite interesting. Of course, none of this is medical advice or anything like that. You keep taking the pills if you've been told to. Do as you're told. Don't listen to me. Till next time, ta-da.